Hi, I'm Tim Travis from Xbox Reviews and Verdicts, and today I'm reviewing Assassin's Creed 3 from Ubisoft. The Assassin's Creed series has become one of the most popular IPs of this generation, with its claim to fame being dropping players into wonderfully realized historical cities, allowing you to run amok and, well, be an assassin. It's a great formula and has a distinct fiction, but fans have seen this in 4 games over the course of the past 5 years, and changes can be seen as minimal. The 5th main entry in the series, AC3, will place you in the events that would be the dawn of the United States, but also promises change for the series. So what's the verdict? Let's find out. If you are a newcomer to the Assassin's Creed series, there are some things you should be aware of. The game will get you up to speed with the events of past games, but to put it as simply as possible, Templars seek power, and assassins have been there to thwart them since the Crusades. Desmond Miles in the present day has been stepping into a device called the Animus that allows him to see into the lives of his ancestors who happen to be assassins, in the process learning of a doomsday that is soon to happen. The set of events in the past few games has been complex, and if you were hoping to get a pure American Revolution story, you won't find it here. Desmond's story takes a bigger role than it has in this series. The game jumps between going into the Animus to discover the location of a key to open a door which presumably hides the answer to stop the apocalypse, and occasionally jumping back to the present to find power sources. Inside the Animus, you play as not one, but 2 of Desmond's ancestors, one being Haytham Kenway, who, let's just say, has ties to the second, Connor, the assassin in all those awesome trailers and commercials. The game essentially has multiple introductions, one for Desmond, the second with Haytham taking place during the French and Indian War, and Connor takes a spotlight after 2 or 3 hours playing as Haytham. Connor's story is undoubtedly the most interesting, as he learns the ways of the assassin, takes part in the American Revolution, but at the same time balancing that with the needs of his Native American tribe. The voice acting is top notch. I liked Connor's stoic nature that bears resemblance to Altair of the original Assassin's Creed, and the accents of just about every other 1700s character are superb. But the story for me was rather underwhelming otherwise. The first major revolutionary event you witness is the Boston Massacre, giving you no context behind the severity of the taxation crisis. And the middle portion of the game feels less like a cohesive story and more like a checklist of major events of the Revolutionary War. If you are a history buff, you know that this time period is filled to the brim with major American figures, and far too many didn't make the cut in this game. While you do meet George Washington, Paul Revere, and Samuel Adams, I have to ask, where the hell is Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Patrick Henry, or even Thomas Paine? Even Benjamin Franklin's appearance feels negligible. While the developers aren't shy to show the flaws of these figures, like the fact that Sam Adams owned slaves, but Ubisoft had a huge missed opportunity here. I can't help but remember back to Assassin's Creed 2, where Leonardo da Vinci was almost a constant companion, and in contrast, think how underutilized the major players of the Revolution in this game are. While Connor's Native American heritage is interesting, I just feel that his priorities like helping his people and hunting Templars make the story feel too broad, forcing the developers to cut out so many characters and even events like, well, a climactic end to the revolution. I was also bothered with the Boston Tea Party mission that forced me to kill scores of redcoats. It's like the developers mixed up the Boston Tea Party with the Boston Massacre. The events of the present day are on the whole better, as I was hoping the series would at some point place a bigger emphasis on Desmond, but the end of one major series character feels very anticlimactic, and we once again have a see what happens next ending. The bottom line is, the setting and events are interesting, but how it's handled and the amount of missed opportunities create a story that often ends up feeling unsatisfying. Now for the gameplay. The basic idea and flow of everything remains similar, but how you play it has changed. Free running is much simpler. Now all you need to do is hold down the right trigger and move towards objects to climb instead of holding A as well. Instead of pressing B while holding the right trigger to shove people out of the way, you just need to pull the trigger all the way. It's an even simpler system than it was before, and doesn't change the fact that parkouring around historical cities is one of the coolest video game concepts ever. Combat has been changed almost completely for the better. In past games, I was almost at all times holding the right trigger to guard, then occasionally pressing X to perform a counter kill. It was fun, but too easy to exploit. Combat is very offensive now. You're almost always attacking and performing combos, but when an enemy attacks, you press B to counter and X to kill, or use the other face buttons to perform other maneuvers. One truly unique element is reacting to enemy firing lines. When British soldiers point their muskets at you, you can press A to grab one of their allies and use him as a human shield. Also, you can't just spam medicine anymore, as you have a rebounding health meter, making combat and platforming rather forgiving. Combat might be on the button mashy side, but it's incredibly fun, cinematic, and even better, makes me feel like Mel Gibson in The Patriot. You really get the feeling that this kind of combat is the only way to make a Revolutionary War action game fun. Some of the missions are the best in the series. The early opera sequence is an amazing first impression, and the battles of Lexington and Concord, along with Bunker Hill, are fun. But occasionally missions aren't as consistently entertaining, such as Paul Revere's Ride. There are two cities to call your personal playground, Boston and New York, but there's another play space, the Frontier and your personal homestead. These create the bulk of the game's economy, giving you opportunities to hunt the local wildlife and complete side missions, and some of the story missions as well. The hunting in this game is good, and climbing trees and cliffs is near identical to running around cities. This also gives you the ability to hunt animals with the unorthodox method of using AC's signature air assassinations. But traveling the frontier isn't anywhere near as fun as climbing around cities and getting into trouble. In the end, I wish Ubisoft just decided to further develop the cities instead. Worse, the economy just isn't all that worthwhile. While in past games it might not have made sense to buy a bank to make a withdrawal, but all the shops and landmarks you invested in were conveniently in the city, a play space I want to spend time in. Now if I were to hunt, I have to take time away from the cities for money to spend on items that are ultimately unnecessary because of the forgiving nature of the game. Even then, if I wanted money, I could get more than enough by sending assassins on contracts. Speaking of which, you once again get such allies by liberating districts, but you now have to complete a series of simple missions, which can be addictive despite being very simple, but I've often had a very difficult time trying to find such missions. But when you do get a small amount of assassins, you can now just go into a menu to send them on missions. Battle station! The most dramatic addition is being a captain of your own vessel, the Aquila, and this might be the best part of the game. Controlling your ship is absolutely delightful and simple, and ordering your crew to fire on enemy ships is satisfying. Ubisoft made something that could have been very complicated a breeze, and honestly, if Ubisoft beefed this up a bit, this should be part of its own game. It's too bad the main story doesn't have you out at sea much, and the healthy amount of side missions with you as captain tend to be short. Multiplayer returns from Brotherhood and Revelations. It does strip down the mechanics, taking away the combat of the main game, focusing on stealth kills. And there still isn't anything like it. There's a certain intensity to it, even though there's kind of an emphasis on walking and being patient. There's also a new co-op mode called Wolfpack, and it works, but if you want to be in a game that lasts longer than a few minutes, you're going to need a coordinated group of friends. It's really difficult for the multiplayer of Assassin's Creed 3 to affect my final verdict, as it does work well, but it's tailored to a specific audience. I would know, I kind of suck at it. While the story might not bring colonial America to life like I hoped, the graphics certainly do. Whether you're in Boston, New York, or on the battlefield, the Anvil Next engine looks supremely solid. Being out on the open sea might actually look better, with insane water and weather effects. The animations are also on par. Just watching your character animate while climbing buildings or performing one of many kill sequences is entertaining in and of itself, and you will agree that this game is as fun to watch as it is to play. The character models are also top-notch, matching the quality of the voice acting, though I did find Desmond's face to look a little strange. Though I have noticed occasional AI quirks, like when a redcoat firing line kills one of their own guys, just to name one, I was otherwise drawn into the game's world. Assassin's Creed 3 is a game with mechanics that are superb but the content surrounding it is generally not quite up to that standard. While the story is filled with missed opportunities and I found myself ignoring most of the side content, the rest of the experience is up to the series standard, and the new gameplay tweaks will definitely be seen in future installments in the series. Thanks for watching this review. Please subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, follow the blog, and check out the Facebook page. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy my future videos.